Welcome back to my pantry. Day after, did some canning yesterday and some water bathing. Actually, we ran the canners, both of them, all day. So the Presto pressure canner as well as the large 23 quart water canner was running all day while I was making a variety of items that needed to get replenish the shelves. So we've done salmon, and the next day after we've completed doing all of the processing and all of our jars have cooled down. The rings have been removed and every seal has been checked and they're all perfect. So I haven't lost any of the products. If they had not sealed, been a fruit, I could have reprocessed them or just put them in a fridge, and we were cold enough last night that if it happened to have been one of the salmons, they would have been fine for breakfast this morning, but they've all sealed. So next job is to wash all of the jars on the outside as well as their rims really carefully, because they've had salmon and there's a potential that there's some oil on the outside. I've used a little bit of vinegar in with some warm water as I've washed them all. So all the jars have been washed and dried, and then I go about labelling and marking all the lids of everything before it goes up onto the shelf so we don't have any confusion later on. Now, I do things a little bit different. Everyone's got their own codes, but what I do is I always write the length of time that they've been either pressure canned or water bathed, so that I know that when I get to the end of, say, the carrots next time around, and I am once again doing just raw pack and cold carrots into the little half pint jars, I know just looking at the lids of the remaining ones that I'm going to be doing it for 25 minutes. So it makes it a little bit easier than trying to find a recipe or a guide when searching for them. Same thing with the salmon, etc. Have all got their time. So I know these are pressure canned and I know these have been water bathed and for what time. Same with the pears. I go through a lot of pears, apples, carrots and fruit in general because there's a baby in the family. So we do a lot of baby foods up, as well as all of our staples, our carrots, our onions, capsicums, those kind of things. Everything has got times written on their lids, so that just makes it a little bit easier when we're just doing whole ingredients. So I know if somebody asks me how long something's been pressure canned for or water bathed for, example, this one here, it's been pressure canned fresh corn, and this one was done in May. So these are corn cobs that have been taken out of the garden, so they're different to the ones up the top, which were previously frozen bags of corn that I needed to get out of freezers when they defrosted. So I did them all differently, so they are labelled differently, so I know which ones were fresh and which ones were not. All right, and so that's how I go about labelling, making sure that they're clean. The other thing then is all of the rings are then stored. I store them back in their old jar boxes, and that way they're not taking up a lot of space. The other thing I do is with jars that I know that I'm going to be using pretty frequently. So these are my large quart jars or 1 litre jars, my pint jars and my half pint jars. When they are being stored in a cupboard, I do store them with a ring on to protect the rim of the actual jar itself from getting knocked. So if I'm reaching through and knock, if they fall over or bang and clink against each other, at least their rims are protected. Some of them I'll go ahead and put fresh bands on if I've got fresh bands to use. Otherwise they just get put in the cupboards without their bands in place. It's a closed cupboard as well. And that's a little bit of a tip. The rest of them are all stored in their boxes. These ones are stored upside down. They don't have their rims on at the moment because they're just drying. Once they're dry, I'll pop their rings on. Just a little tip. Okay, back to it. Today's job is meat sauce. So I've got the beef and the pork thawing out at the moment. I've only got 2 jars at the moment left of the bolognese sauce. So that's today's job, is to do a large batch of those. I'll be doing about 10 jars. Pint jars of the meat sauce today, and some further drying of some of the herbs from in the garden. That's it, and that'll be my job for the day. Always something to be done. So thanks for joining me. Hope you've gotten something out of that little brief video. This is my pantry. Obviously we've done a bit of a tour here in the past, and there's a lot of spaces on the shelves that need to be filled. Generally go through quite a bit. And pumpkin soup, that's the other thing I have to make today, is another big batch of pumpkin soup because it's winter and we are going through a lot of pumpkin soup at the moment. Yay! Always something. Thanks for joining me. Bye now.